Okay, everybody, so this is Lesson 5, Part 2, Lesson 5, Part 2, Rec 250 Online, Summer Session 1, Lesson 5, Part 2, and I'm talking about perceived and actual risk, and more about perceived risk, and that is, that is something that you can use to your benefit to move groups and individuals into the learning process. Somebody must be challenged, they must be pushed, they must open up, become vulnerable before anything that can happen. When they're just a statue, so to speak, and they're all closed up with their fake self and all of their boundary, all of their we call them psychology calls them shells. Can be personality shells or dysfunctional shells where they're just not willing to show who they really are. And you can't do anything with that. You can't work with that. So we've got to bring people to a place of vulnerability, a place where they actually have to say, maybe I need assistance from the group, I need help, or they come to a place where they say, I'm scared, I'm fearful. That's extremely important. People, there's so many things for folks to hide behind today. That's a whole nother class. But moving them and getting them to a place where they can kind of soften up, then they can be impacted by your facilitation, by your leadership. And then now something of value is happening. Now whether or not they take that information, they learn and they have a better life because of it, it's not your responsibility. You're responsible to and not for. But by setting up the right environment and using risk to your advantage, you're going to get people to open up. And when they start opening up, you can help them process and help facilitate a learning process so that when they leave your program, whether you're doing a seminar, whether you're coaching a team, whether you're at an after-school basketball camp, whatever you're doing, you have the opportunity to touch someone's life. And if they open up enough, and you use your strong interpersonal skills, people are going to learn, people are going to grow, they're going to have a better life because of it. And that's something good. That's a good experience, and it's a good deal to have when you go home at night, when you go to sleep, is that you're a part of somebody having a better life experience. It's very rewarding. So we're talking about perceived risk, and perceived risk is something that when that person came onto the ropes course, we talked about in Part 1, Lesson 5, Part 1, was they get butterflies, and they have this psychological fight or flight response system, and that's there to protect you. That's totally normal. And what happens is when you get up high, for example, on a climb, or you're up a two-story building or something, you might get a little nervous. That's your body protecting you. That's your internal process that says, hey, we need to get down. And everyone has it. You crawl into underground in a cave into a tight spot, and you start to get claustrophobic. Everybody has it. Everybody's afraid of heights, which is actually not heights, it's afraid of falling. Everybody's afraid of tight places because our natural psychological defense mechanisms say those places are bad. Okay? And there's nothing wrong with that. But what we want to do is we can harness the power that has and use that for learning and growth as leaders. And so if somebody walks on, they see the challenge course, and they're like, oh gosh, no way can I do that. No way can I get up there. No. I mean, most, if not all, limitations that someone has in their mind or in their mindset is set by them. Okay? There's this big deal where, oh gosh, people told me I couldn't do this and I couldn't do that, and most of that's just hogwash. Who is repeating that is the actual person. Okay, if you tell yourself that you can't do something, then you're not going to do it. But if you tell yourself that you can do something, it's a whole mindset change. And this is something that, like the ropes course, for example, other leadership programs can really help people understand is when you watch a group show up on the ropes course, they see it, and 90% of them are like, I can't do it, won't do it, can't do it, instantly. And so that's a mindset there that's going to hold them back in life. All right, so perceived risks. We're like, because they're perceiving the fact that if they go up on the rope course, they're going to die, or it's going to be horrible, or it's going to be something that it's just is challenging and terrible, and it's going to not be good for them. So what a facilitator wants to do is use that to their advantage, because when somebody gets in a place where they're uncomfortable, Okay, when their comfort zone is stretched, so to speak, and they're feeling nervous, and that's when they're at the point where they can make some decisions to start opening up. So of course you don't take a group right to the ropes course. You wouldn't do that because most people would say no. What a leader does is a leader wants to convince, I guess I wouldn't say convince, but provide evidence, and that helps the individual and the group as a whole believe that they can do this, believe that they can take a risk, okay, and be successful. And that's what the team building part leading up to the ropes course is all about. By doing those silly games and those activities, starting to make the group feel comfortable, and starting to talk about some of the group challenges and how to build the team and work on the communications. By the time they get to the ropes course, they're looking around and they feel better about their group, they feel better about themselves, they feel they trust the facilitator because they've had some time to build some trust with the facilitator, and then now they have a decision that it's much more difficult to say no to, because there's so much support in the group. Okay, and if you've done your job correctly as an interpersonal skill-based facilitator, that means that people are feeling comfortable and they're ready for the next challenge. So you build them up and get them to the place, but they still have that perceived risk. It just doesn't go away like that. Okay, they absolutely still have that perceived risk, and you're going to use that. And when somebody is that frightened and that challenged in a supportive environment, you watch what they'll do. It's absolutely amazing. And they'll get up and they'll try something different, and they do it, they succeed, and the confidence building aspect of that is phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. So perceived risk. In sum, there's no reason to take away somebody's perceived risk, the perception of risk. There's no reason to do that. So to make this, drive the point home, to make it clear, and something that you probably already reviewed because it might have been on the midterm, but if we look on page, get in there to the page, slowly but surely, to page 9 in your note packet. Page 9 in your note packet is the Adventure Experience Paradigm, where it talks about risk and competence. And this is important to understand as a leader, because if I have too much risk, say for example, everybody shows up to that ropes course and everybody's kind of scared, they're like, oh, I don't want to do that, I'm scared, blah, blah, and you say, well, don't worry, we'll take it slow. And you take them right down to that ropes course, you put them in a harness, and you kind of start pushing everybody military style to get up there. Well, that's okay in some groups, like the military and other organizations, which use that in training their young leaders, and that's fine. But in this situation, probably with the civilians or general public, it's too much too fast. And if you look here at the Adventure Paradigm, Experience Paradigm on page 9, you'll see that if there's too much risk and not enough competence, and competence is their belief in their ability to do it, and some corresponding skills. I mean, if you got a group that they're doing the climbing wall with, they should be at least mildly athletic. I mean, if it's a group that really struggles athletically, or a group that's disabled, you're going to have a special ropes course for that, or some special circumstances put into place. So competence is their belief that they can do it, and then of course their physical ability and some other things, but they got to believe they can do it. So risk there, if there's too much risk, it says devastation and disaster in the upper quadrant. That means that if it's just too risky and it's just too scary, people actually will have an experience that will lessen their confidence. This is very important. And there's some of you out there I know who like the risk, like the adventure stuff, and that's good, but there's an appropriate time for it. You must prepare your group, build your group as a leader, build them up so that they are ready. It's still risky. Okay, and they're still going to be challenged, but they're ready for it to some degree, emotionally, psychologically ready. Too risky, too fast, devastation, disaster. It means that comfort zone or that belief about oneself actually shrinks, and they will leave feeling less than. And then you as a leader have not been responsible to. You have not provided the best opportunity for them, and so you have made a big mistake. And this isn't hard to do. Okay, this isn't hard to do, and especially if you're new in the interpersonal skill leadership realm, you'll always be training with somebody who's more experienced. And most of this comes very, very naturally. We're just dissecting it in the class and looking at it and, looking at different graphs and reading different things so that all those scholars and people with PhDs can feel good about themselves. And me too, because we need something to do, right? Okay, just kidding around. All right, so risk and competence. And if you look down now here on competence, and here's the other side of things. Now, we want to use perceived risk, but we don't want to take it away. We don't have a risk completely wiped away from the program, or there's nothing, or you're not going to have, it's not going to be overly beneficial. Because if it's too easy, you have exploration and experimentation. That means they're going to try to make it more risky. They're going to goof off. Okay, and they're not going to take the program seriously because it's too easy. So what you want to do is strike the balance. And right there it says there, strike the balance between risk and competence, get you the peak adventure. The experience where it's risky enough, yet people believe they can do it, and they can succeed. When they succeed, they feel overwhelming joy, overwhelming confidence, and overwhelming belief in oneself. And when that is balanced correctly, and they get up on that ropes course and do something exciting because they've been built up all day, and they didn't want to do it at first, but they built up all day, they trust their group, they gave it a shot, they did it, they completed it, they came down, then they are so excited and just actually just really, really filled with confidence. And that is a learning experience that person had, because you hit it right as a facilitator. You balanced risk and you balanced competence, making for a excellent environment for someone to learn, for someone to grow.